Welcome to the Net Profit Podcast with Ryan Kibler, your net profit CFO, helping business owners like you grow their net profit one episode at a time. And now your host, Ryan Kibler.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Net Profit Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Kibler, the Net Profit CFO. Today, I've got a very good friend with me, Stacey Brown Randall. Stacey really focuses on and helps businesses get more of their ideal referrals. I am really excited for today's conversation. Stacey has been doing this for a while, and I am really intrigued by her methods, and we are going to learn a lot today. So, Stacey, thank you for taking the time and joining the show.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. I'm excited to be here. When you said I've been doing this for a really long time, I'm like, oh gosh, if he says the actual number of years, he's going to age me quite quickly. So
no, I wouldn't throw that out there, but I do want to give you an opportunity. I mean, share with my audience, how did you get into referrals? How did you get to where you are today? And kind of tell us a little bit about your journey.
yeah, so, it's interesting. Most people want to know, like, okay, the way you teach referrals is so different. I call myself a contrarian in the space of referrals because I teach referrals without asking, without compensating, without manipulating, without networking all the time and wasting a bunch of time. And so that's not something you just wake up one day and you're like, oh, look, God made me brilliant in the span of like being able to teach in the realm of being able to teach referrals and teach it in this really unique way. Like most things in life, it came to the school of very hard knocks. Yeah. I actually had a business. It was an HR, human resource consulting firm. And if you looked at my business from the outside in, you'd be like, wow, she's got KPMG and BDO and Ally Bank and Coca-Cola Consolidated Bottling, like all these big name companies as her clients. You would assume that the business was doing well. Unfortunately, the business didn't make it. It made it just past 4 years. It did not make it to that elusive 5-year mark. I think there's some statistic that's like 82% of all small businesses will fail before they hit 5 years.
Yep.
That's me. I'm in that club. I'm in the 82%. I have a business failure badge. I had it made and being a member of the business failure club. And so I had to go back and get a job. And my business did well, but I worked incredibly hard for every client I did land. And it was always about being at the right place at the right time from a networking perspective, which, Ryan, you and I both know being at the right place at the right time just means you're in all the places all the time.
Yep.
That's how that actually works out to your advantage. And I have 3 kids, and that's kind of exhausting and not a great way to like have balance in your life. And so when that business failed, I had to go get a job. I had to go back to corporate America. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to put heels on again. This is terrible. And I was probably in corporate America about 15, 16 months, but I knew from the day I sat in the lobby of one of my interviews, I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, I know I got to be here, but I eventually got to figure out how to get out of here. And while in corporate America, I became certified as a productivity coach. And I kind of knew that would be my exit strategy. So 15 months later, I exited. I decided to start another business. And the big thing I paid attention to is, why are others successful and I wasn't? One of the things I dug into was how I was generating my clients. And they really did come because I was networking and I sat on boards with people, or I was at this event with this person, or I was in this association with this person. And I was like, that's not sustainable, right? When I started my second business, now we had 2 kids at that point and they were getting older. And then eventually we would bring on a third. And so that wasn't sustainable. And I was like, why can't I get referrals? Like all these other people are getting them. Why can't I get them? I realized my first business, I got that many referrals, none, zero. And so I was like, clearly I don't know how to do it then because I never got one in 4 years. And then I'm like everybody else, go to Google. Hey, what's up, Google? How do I get referrals? And you're hit with a barrage of ask, or pay, or network, or put in your email signature. The greatest compliment you can give me is a referral, right? All that gimmicky promotional stuff we don't want to do because that's not how I wanted to show up in the marketplace. That's not how I wanted to be seen by my clients. And so when I started my productivity and business coaching practice, I was like, I don't know what to do to get referrals. I just know I don't want to do any of that stuff. And I threw a bunch of spaghetti on the wall and some of it stuck and some of it worked and it worked really well. And it was 112 referrals that I received in my first year as a productivity and business coach that I didn't ask for. And at that point, when you have that type of success, lots of things change. It's the supply and demand thing, right? Lots of things change in your business. I was raising my rates. I was changing when I would work with clients. I used to go to them, then I can make them come to me. I got office space, like everything shifted after that first year. And my clients were like, hey, thanks for teaching us how to tame our inbox. Love that. But I really want to learn how you're growing. And I was like, oh, I'm getting referrals. And they're like, great, teach me. And you're in that moment, you're like, well, wait, what am I doing? Like, and then I had to reverse engineer the processes of what I was doing. And I was paying attention to how I would see things land on people. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is basically what I'm doing. And I started teaching it in my one-on-one coaching sessions. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I started teaching it in workshops, like 20 people, 30 people, 50 people in a room for a whole day. And then I would teach it. And when people started having as much success as I was having, and in lots of cases more, I was like, okay, this isn't based on my industry as a coach. This isn't based on my personality of being extremely extroverted. This isn't based on anything else other than the fact that I have figured out how people can generate referrals in a way that feels good and they don't have to do any of the stuff they don't want to do. Over time, I then also discovered, oh, this is based on the science of referrals. I have a very clear, distinctive way of looking at referrals. What we do and how we do it, our philosophy is very, very, like, it's very much honed in on being good people at like a baseline. Yep. But all the things kind of came to be. And so now, of course, I've been doing this for 12 years. And I think the big thing that people resonate with what I teach them is that it has to work or it doesn't really matter, but it also can feel good while it's working. And I think that's the key.
Love that. Well, you caught us up on a long, good part of your life very, very quickly. So love that. And love that we have that background. And I really resonated with everything you were saying there. And part of my, like, what I look for in clients is I look for clients with good hearts. And I think, that last part that you just talked about, how you can get to a point where referrals actually feel good and you're helping somebody else. I love to be in that space. But before we get there and kind of the science of referrals, and I think we'll get to that kind of at the end, I just want to start out, because obviously you have a lot of a different perspective, probably from me and from a lot of my audience. I mean, let's just start out and define referrals, like, for you and kind of the way that you look at them.
Yeah, I think it's always important to make sure we're on the same page, right? And we're like when we use the same words, do we actually have the same meaning and definition behind them? And I have found lots of people don't. And I think one of the reasons for that is because the word referral is thrown around and applied to other marketing, other sales, other types of leads. And it's just like it's overused. And it's overused means now most people don't even know what they are. So I define a referral as it has two parts. And it has to have these two parts to be considered a referral. And that is, number one, there's a personal connection. There is somebody who I call the referral source. So there's somebody, a referral source, who knows a person, we're going to call that person the prospect, who has a problem. And they're going to personally connect that prospect to you. That's how the trust is transferred, right? And that is how you are in the driver's seat, because you have now been connected to this prospect by your referral source, because the referral source wants that connection to happen because they trust you. The second piece is there's got to be a need identified in the prospect. The prospect needs to know they're the prospect. That's why they're willing to be connected to you, right? And the example I always use, if my husband and I are living in the house that we plan to die in, right? Like, I don't actually ever need to be referred to a realtor unless something in my circumstances change. So the prospect has to have a need, and they need to be connected to you by another person, the referral source. So it's those two parts: personal connection, need identified in the prospect.
Yep. Love that. And that really aligns, with a lot of the business owners that I talk to, especially like other CFOs that I talk to. I mean, we used to say that there was three parts, but you've got to have the connection and trust. They have to have a prospect that has a need, and you have to be top of mind for that referrer too. That's the kind of the third piece that we say, but having that personal, connection and trust is really kind of the same thing. But we just kind of add that third part because there are probably other people that do what you do.
Yeah. So the top of mind piece for us is hugely important. It's just not part of how we define referrals in my world. Yeah. It's more about then how we nurture the relationship with our referral sources, is to make sure that we're top of mind. So I always tell folks, I separate out, like, when a referral arrives, it has to meet this two-part definition so that you know what it is, because how you behave and with the actions you take and how you follow up it should be different when it's a referred prospect versus a prospect that found you through an SEO search.
Sure.
right? Both are good, but you approach them differently because they arrived from different places. And so for me, with the way we define referrals is I want people to know that's what this is. And if someone says, hey, like if someone were to say to you, hey, Ryan, I was talking to someone the other day, they absolutely need you. I gave them all your contact information and they're going to follow up. I want you to be able to say, wait, there's a need identified in a prospect, but I wasn't connected. So that's not a referral. And in that case, that's word of mouth buzz. When you know that, when you can identify, wait, that's word of mouth buzz, like one of the things I teach my clients is, okay, so here's the language you use to flip word of mouth buzz into a referral. Now, how we go about getting those referrals and staying top of mind and nurturing the relationship with our referral sources, like that's the next step in terms of how the processes and strategies work.
Yep. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
For sure. So let's talk about, where referrals fit in business development. And I think you kind of started to get into that piece. Everybody loves referrals, right? And it's the easy way to get additional business, right? But as you kind of talked about in your journey, like so far, my experience with referrals in order to, get them is you've got to get out there and have connections and build trust. And that's where everybody ends up, getting out there and networking and going to meetings and, sitting on boards and getting involved in their community and, so that your face is out there and people learn and know who you are. But I would love to hear you just talk a little bit about, how referrals can fit into business development and how, we can really shift where we're spending our time. And I'll just let you run with that.
Yeah. So if you go to any type of like business development training or sales training or anything like that, one of the things you're going to learn is that your sales strategy or your business development strategy is a two-legged stool. And you're going to be taught that there's things that you do on the prospecting side, and then there's things that you do on the marketing side. The prospecting is going to be things like joining maybe a leads group or an association or going to coffees. Maybe it's direct mail, right? Maybe it's buying leads, right? There's a lot of things you can do that's what would be considered prospecting in nature. And the prospecting mentality is, let me get you as quickly as I can to the prospect. So go to that networking event, have that cup of coffee with somebody, right? Join that association, whatever. It's like, how fast can I get you to the prospect? The other side of that is marketing. And so marketing may be a website, social media, right? Getting some publicity with some earned press releases and things like that. It could be sponsorships, right? So there's lots of different things that you can do that are marketing in nature. And the idea there is like, let that billboard I put up, right? Or that ad that I'm running or my website be the thing that attracts the prospect to me. The goal of prospecting and marketing is to get you in front of a prospect and have a sales message that will capture their attention to get them to raise their hand and say, yes, I need to talk to you.
Yep.
Most people will then teach you that referrals has to fit in one of those two places. It has to fit into the prospecting bucket, which is where the asking or paying or networking to be known, to be seen all the time, those strategies and tactics come into place. So if someone believes, well, referrals are prospecting, then they teach you to ask or pay or network all the time. If someone believes that referrals fits on the marketing side of the two-legged stool, then you get the promotional, gimmicky marketing kind of stuff, right? And people will call it referral marketing. And I'm always like, that's not a thing. It's not a term that we should be using because it leads you to believe that referrals are marketing in nature. But the messaging, when you're doing prospecting and marketing, is sales in nature. But that's because you're trying to talk to the prospect. Your business development strategy has a third leg, and the third leg of that stool is actually referrals. And referrals aren't prospecting. They don't fit in prospecting. They don't fit in marketing because the person you're talking to when you're trying to generate referrals is never the prospect. You don't know who they are. You only know who is the referral source, either the people who refer you now or the people you want to refer you in the future. And so your conversation, your messaging, your relationship that you're building is entirely different than a prospecting or a marketing mentality because you're talking to the person who knows the prospect. So everything about your messaging and communication has to be different. Everything about how you build that relationship has to look different, which is why I tell people referrals is its own leg of your business development strategy. And you have to then have the right strategy within for referrals to be able to produce them, to be more than the sporadic, right? Like we want consistency. We want this to be a strategy that we can count on. So you got to have prospecting, marketing, and then referrals has got to be separate.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think for most of my listeners and even, me, I think that's a very different kind of strategy and look at it that most people don't have. Yeah, very, very interesting. Third leg of the stool. And I completely agree, if you come at it from a different angle, right, you're using the wrong language to get the job done. And that's probably why a lot of business owners don't have the success that they want to with referrals.
Yeah, because if I believe that referrals are part of prospecting, and so all I teach is to ask, and you're like, that is awful, I don't want to do it. And by the way, it's not working, then you are then told, well, then you just got to hope you do great work and you get some. And hope's not a strategy either. Like it's so many times when I talk to folks, I'm always like, do you think you do amazing work? Like not perfect work. No one's perfect, but do you think that you are a valuable resource to your clients? And like 10 times out of 10, a business owner is going to raise their hand and be like, yes, I think I do great work, not perfect work, but I do great work and I'm valuable. My clients appreciate me. And then I say, so you do awesome work. Are you also drowning in referrals? Like so many referrals, you don't know what to do with yourself. And they're immediately like, no, that's not I do not have that problem. I have the opposite problem. It's like a desert when it comes to referrals, or I get just a couple when I want, half a dozen a month. I'm getting like maybe one a month. And I'm like, that's because doing amazing work does not equal generating referrals. And that's the other thing that people are taught. Well, just do great work and you'll get some. Like, no, like you actually have to be in a little bit more control.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and especially, again, when you're doing amazing work, that's client facing. And one of my one of my mentor's favorite stories is he was working with a painter, took him from, massive losses, six-figure losses to six-figure profits in 1 year. And my mentor asked the painter, will you introduce me to, your friends and, the associations that you're a part of? And he said, not over my dead body, because you're my secret weapon and I can't give you to my competition. Right. And so when you're doing that amazing work, like especially like in my field where, I'm helping business owners with their finances, like, the business that I'm helping that's an HVAC company definitely doesn't want me at the HVAC company down the street. Right. And so when you're working with a customer, you might get amazing results for them. Maybe, in my case, maybe it's a 4 or 5x of the client fee that they're paying me, but there is no way they're giving me and referring me to the business down the street. Not, again, like the painter said, not over their dead body.
I always find that, so I'll hear that from time to time too. People will be like, well, if I work with you, are you also going to work with the other attorney down the street that does the exact same thing? And, it's funny. What I always tell folks is it's different with referrals because the people who are going to refer to you are probably not referring to your competition because we refer to someone we trust. And let's be honest, I don't know about you, but I don't have a Rolodex of like 4 painters I trust. I have a Rolodex of like a painter I trust. Right. Yep. So it's always interesting when people say that. But the other thing I always tell folks is that if that's a concern, and it does exist in some industries, not in all, right? Sure. But it does exist in some industries where the person's like, I don't want you working with my competitors, right? You always have to take that off the table. And that's the other thing though. He's also asking that painter to refer to him. So now he's put it in the painter's head, like, okay, I've got work to do and I want to make sure that this works out for me. Like it changes the entire dynamic of how the painter thought in that moment, right? Because ultimately your mentor didn't need necessarily more painters. There's lots of people that that are in the home services or trades businesses that he could have been able to help. First of all, I would never tell him to ask. I would tell him to do it differently. But at least in that situation, I'd be like, oh, just reframe what you're saying and be like, clearly you don't need to be referring me to the painters. But I'm sure there are other, like not your competitors, but all the other people who work on homes that Like I would never teach you to ask, but that's at least something I probably would say is if you think they're going to like, maybe I don't want to do that. Like take that off the table before they have a chance to put it on the table from that perspective. But clearly I would be like, you shouldn't even have to ask if you're doing other things.
Yes. And I think that really gets into the science of referrals and, not having to ask. So let's kind of shift and dive into that side of things too. Because a lot of business owners, I think, believe that they have to ask and kind of falling under that sales mindset of, well, if I want to get the referral, I have to ask. And you take a different approach, and that's kind of into the science of referrals that you don't have to ask.
Yeah. So I always tell folks everything that I teach, from the philosophy that I teach to the strategies, the tactics, and right down to the language, is always going to it's always going to respect the science of referrals. And the three things you need to understand about the science of referrals, and I'll do this high level, like I won't go too deep, or like we won't have time to talk about anything else. But at a high level, the three things you need to understand when it comes to referrals is, number one, and this is hard for people to grasp when they first hear it, but it's, referrals aren't about you. Everybody believes that referrals are about me. Ryan, you refer someone to me, right? And normally what people think is, yay, I got a client. Ryan's helping me grow my business. But that's not what you're thinking about when you refer a client to me. In the moment the referral is happening and you are talking to someone that you know that has a problem, you get to all of a sudden be like, wait, I know how to help you. How I can help you solve that problem, you get to be the hero, right? How I can help you solve that problem is by connecting and referring you to Stacey, because she's uniquely positioned to solve that problem for you. So yes, you get a referral, and that's great, and potentially a new client, and it feels great, but it's not about you. It's about your referral source helping somebody else who has a problem, and how they're going to solve that problem is by referring them to you. And so at the moment in your brain, when you're like, wait, I can help you, I need to refer you to Stacey, the happiness trifecta, which is what the scientists call it, it's not what I named it. The happiness trifecta of the chemicals in your brain, dopamine and its two cousins, are released. And those are the feel-good chemicals that when they do more than just feel-good regulation, right? But when we do something that feels good, those chemicals are released. And so in that moment, they're like, I'm helping somebody. And recognizing that means it's not about you getting a client. That's not where you come at it, right? This is about your referral source feeling good about helping someone else, and you get a client because of that. So first thing is know your place. Know your place with referrals, because it's not about you. That's really important. So the first thing is what's happening in the brain. So brain science. The second thing that's happening with science of referrals is what most people know, which is the psychology of trust, right? The psychology of trust comes into play because there's a reputation on the line. I'm putting my reputation on the line anytime I refer someone to you, right? And so obviously that psychology of trust. And then when I refer someone to you, they are borrowing my trust and applying it to you, which makes usually a referral easier and quicker to close and less price sensitive. So most people get the psychology of trust. So we got what's going on in the brain. Then we've got the dynamic behind the psychology of trust. And then the third piece is actually the relationship you maintain with your referral source is key to more referrals. And that pulls on the principles of behavioral economics. And that's the third piece of the science. And so most people are like, oh, okay, behavioral economics, reciprocity. And that's actually where a lot of the asking advice comes from. This client feels great and amazing. Let me leverage or take advantage or manipulate that reciprocity by saying, hey, who else do you know you can connect me with? We look at behavioral economics like on the positive side, not the evil side of like leveraging or manipulating someone's reciprocity. We don't even pay attention to reciprocity with behavioral economics. We're looking at other factors of what is it that actually maintains a relationship with someone, but where you're not having to show up in that person's life daily, weekly, or monthly. But what you're doing is keeping you top of mind. There is variety, there is surprise and delight, right? Obviously, there's a language piece that goes into this, and using some of the principles of behavioral economics to build out strategies that allow our referral sources to feel and be impacted in a different way because of how we show up by putting them first. And that's how we nurture the right kind of relationship. And so that's how we can do less and get a longer runway out of it as well. Most people I talk to, they're like, so I got to do something every week or every month for my referral sources. And I'm like, only if you want to be creepy. Like, you really should be doing something maybe 5, 6, maybe 7 times in a year. So in some cases, it's not even every other month, but it could be. But it's the what you do matters. It's the what you say, right? And so there's a whole framework that I teach my clients of how we take behavioral economics and we build out a plan of how you're going to do outreach of what this will look like. And most people are like, I never would have thought about that. Because it's not about, most people think when I say the relationship you have with your referral sources is important. And where their minds instantly go is, oh, they have to know how amazing I am. They have to know what an amazing fractional CFO I am. They have to know what an amazing consultant I am. They have to know what an amazing attorney I am. They don't actually care. It's actually like everybody, if you're still in business, everybody assumes you must be good at what you do until you prove me otherwise. I'm just going to assume you're good at what you do. I mean, that doesn't mean they do need to know what you do, right? And there's pieces to that. But most people are like, oh, they need to know how amazing I am, and then they'll refer me. I'm like, no, they have to remember you to be able to refer you. And that is very different when you think about how you're going to maintain a relationship with them.
For sure. Everybody needs to rewind the last 5 minutes and listen to it a second time, just so you know. So,
Great.
yes, because I definitely think everything you just talked about is really gold. And I think it's very important for business owners to shift their mindset, learn, and understand. And so I'm going to tell everybody, rewind, listen to the last 5 minutes. So, Stacey, next I want to go into, you teach this in a couple of different ways. And for my audience, there's a couple of different ways for them to really learn the systems with you and really install kind of a referral machine in their business. That's what I'm going to call it, a referral machine. I don't know if that's what you would call it, but
Sometimes we, yeah.
I want to give you an opportunity and just share, what are the different ways that you teach this, what's available for my audience, and how they can learn the referral framework that you have.
Yeah. So one of the best things I ever did in my business is I came up with what we call the flow chart. And it is the referral strategy flow chart. And it's how you implement things in your business and how you flow through in the order that you do things. And every business is a little bit different. So there's always a customization to what order we go in. But there's some basic pieces we need to start with. So right now, there are 20 different referral strategies that I teach. Some are like, it's a process, it's a workflow, put it in place, set it and forget it. And other ones are, hey, this is how you're going to nurture relationships to get more referrals from a certain group of people. So no matter how someone works with me, they're going to get all of those strategies. The way my business is set up is, how do you want to learn from me? So if we're all getting the same strategies, no matter how you work with me, the next question is how best do you want to work with me? Some people are like, I don't want to watch a video. I just want you to show up, teach it to my team, and serve it to us on a silver platter, build it for us, and come and implement it. And that's my VIP, where I will actually build for a client based on their assessment what their overall strategy is going to look like. And then I go spend 2 days with them and their team. And then I'm with them for an entire year after that as they're in implementation mode. So that's my VIP level. Other times people are like, I don't either have a team or that's not how I want to learn best. So I want to do a more measured approach. I have a coaching program where you're in that for a year and you're watching the strategies in our online portal, so videos, and you're learning it, you're putting them in place. And then I'm giving you feedback on what you're building. And then I'm always available to answer questions. And I have other people who are like, I want to drink from a fire hose. I just want to show up. I want you to tell me everything I need to know in 2 days. I don't want to watch a video. I don't want to do it in a coaching program. What does that look like? And I'm always like, that's our referral accelerator. So that's when a small group of business owners will come to me and we will build out their referral strategy in 2 days. So from the VIP experience to the building a referable business coaching program, 12-month experience, or the referral accelerator, it's just how do you want to consume the information and put it into place? All of those come with access to me after the fact, right? Or during it. But it's like, how do you want to learn? Okay, great. What I need to teach, I can do it in 2 days. But it's how fast you want to go and it's how you want to learn. And that's how my business is set up for the 3 different ways that I work with people. And of course, all of this is on my website, StaceyBrownRandall.com. Of course, Stacey has an E, but everything's right there on the homepage. You can look at how they all work together.
And the workshops, just for my audience, are done in
Charlotte,
North Carolina.
So right now the referral accelerators are done in Charlotte. We just had one in February. It was amazing. They're usually small, about 10 to 12 people are in a room. And so I love them. I have been asked to take them on the road. Like, hey, would you come to Michigan or would you come to the West Coast to do one? And so that's always an option. But right now people come to me in Charlotte.
Got it. Very cool. And you did mention your website already. I know you also have a podcast. Best places for my audience to find you, connect with you beyond the website would be?
Yeah. So the podcast, since they already are a podcast listener, they can cue me up as well. It's Roadmap to Referrals, wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, on the social media channels, you can find me at Stacey Brown Randall. LinkedIn, Instagram are my 2 favorite, but also Facebook as well.
Very nice. Stacey, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show. Greatly appreciate having you as a guest. And Greatly appreciate your insights today. I think we got a lot of good information to my listeners, a lot of value add here today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Until next time, everybody, go accelerate your profits. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Net Profit Podcast with Ryan Kimler. Make sure to subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to check the show notes for our guest contact information and to connect with Ryan on his website, netprofitcfo.com.